If a politician says it's free, look for the tax. If a politician says it's free, look for the tax. Taxes have to be paid back by taxpayers. The power to tax is just one tool the government has to use. They also borrow and print money. Both of these have negative effects. Borrowing causes the debt to increase, which has to be paid by taxpayers. Printing money causes inflation, which also costs the taxpayer by decreasing purchasing power. Some politicians believe that they can tax the rich to pay for all of the free things that they promise the public. The public likes the idea that they can receive something for free and have someone else pay for it. Therefore, they are willing to vote for the politician offering the free items. However, the people do not realize that the short-term gain has long-term ramifications. Let's look at an example. A student votes for and gets free education. There's not enough money that can be generated by the wealthy to pay for all the free promises. Also, many of the wealthy will leave the United States due to the excessive tax code. The money to pay for the free items will have to be paid by the middle class. So the student that voted for and receives the free education graduates and becomes part of the middle class. The politician must make up the increasing cost of the free items and the loss of the revenue from the departing rich. So now the politician creates an free education tax targeting the middle class. The student that got the free education has the pleasure of paying the free college education tax for the rest of their life. This tax will be paid by their children and their heirs and all the other people of the United States, whether they attend college or not. Politicians know this and are therefore either deceitful or naive, neither of which is acceptable. They assume the populace are naive and that they can win the vote, which is their objective. The focus should not be that the rich make too much money. The focus should be the government makes too much money. The government knows that if it can put the focus on the rich and make the people jealous, then the people will not realize that the government just wants the rich people's money because they can do better with it. What? Take money from people who are successful, productive, create jobs, etc., then give it to a politician who will waste it. So here in the United States, the federal government has the military, intelligence agencies, foreign affairs, infrastructure, etc. But they also have this big thing called welfare, which has housing, education, health care for all, food stamps, unemployment, Medicare, Social Security, etc. Well, first of all, they have this Medicare and Social Security under this welfare, and they're calling it welfare, but it's really an annuity. For instance, people that are elderly have paid into this system of Medicare and Social Security for their entire lives. It is an annuity. It is their money. It's not the government's money. And so what happened is the government borrowed against that those two programs, and especially Social Security, and now it's in trouble because they never paid those funds back. So the government has all this big, huge welfare, and they're borrowing from some of the systems that they've already set up, and they're considering it welfare instead of what it should have been is an annuity. So that's part of the government apparatus. And now we come to the state and local government. They also have police, intelligence agency, interstate affairs, infrastructure, etc. But they also have their welfare, their housing, education, health care, food stamps, unemployment, permitting, environmental issues, etc. And basically, what the people have is the religious community and charities that they can do some of the welfare through. So what we end up is what the founding fathers feared and tried to protect against, and that was too much government power, federal government, and too much state and local government power, and the separation of these powers. But it's kind of upside down. The people are supposed to have all the power, but instead the power flows from the federal government and the state and local governments down to the people. It's upside down. But this is what the founding fathers had in mind, that the power should be in the people, of the people, by the people, and for the people, with a small federal government, primarily the military, infrastructure, and foreign affairs, and the state and local government with the police, um, interstate affairs, and infrastructure as well. And both of them have other small things. This is just kind of a quick overview. But then the people have the power. And people, and some people might say, "Well, John, what about the welfare? We got to have, to take care of the people." And I said, "Yes, but the welfare should, in my opinion, come from the religious and the charitable apparatus that are set up on the local level, and that people would actually be able to volunteer and be involved personally. So people, community would get their um, pay their, instead of just paying taxes to the government, and they would be able to dole the money out wherever they want, which primarily seems to be going to the cities, these big cities like New York and Los Angeles and Chicago. Instead, you'd be able to keep the money in within yourself. You have less taxes, and you give more to the religious or the charities that would take care of education and welfare, and all the other things on a local level, and be more personalized, instead of so much waste. And you could actually see the money being used. You can even volunteer and see how your money is being doled out. The more that the government taxes us, the less that we can give to charities and to religious community, and to take care of the people in our community, which I believe is a better way of spending my money. I want to be able to spend my money the way I want to for my community. I don't want to give it to the government so they can dole it out and give it to the big cities or wherever they want to send it to, instead of taking care of my community. We can still have an international effect even from the local level by having the charities or the religious communities connected to have national or even international funds to help on a larger scale. But that shouldn't be done by the government. It should be done by the people on the local level. How big should the federal government be? I do not have all the answers. However, I believe the federal and state governments have too many agencies and are too big. To give you an idea of the size of the federal government, visit this site. Remember that the most of these agencies, offices, and positions are appointed with no term limits and are not controlled or overseen by the people. You be the judge. Is this what the founding fathers envisioned? Or is this what is best for the United States? I cannot help but believe that we should have a smaller central government, and that the power should remain of the people, by the people, and for the people. So all these three, tax, borrow, and print money in excess, will lead to the people losing freedom, becoming dependent on the government. That is called socialism, which the founding fathers tried to protect us from that destiny. If that is what we become, we have only ourselves to blame. We must teach our children the truth about the founding fathers and the great experiment of believing that a people can self-govern, but must have in place measures to protect the people from monarchies, cabals, oligarchies, etc., that desire the money and the power of control. They have the ability to deceive the populace in appearing to take care about them, but the bottom line is that they just want the common vote to keep themselves in power and control the money. So just remember the example of Social Security. We set up Social Security, people pay for it their whole lives. It's an annuity, so they'll have something to be paid out when they retire. The government borrows against it, now it's in trouble. And is that what the type of what they do with our money? Are they the best to handle our funds, our money, our taxes? Or should be done at the local level. So the question is it too late? I believe that we are at a critical point in our history. If we vote for free education, health care, etc., then we will vote away our liberty and give the power and the money to the aristocracy and cabals, etc. That is what the Founding Fathers tried to protect us from. Let us remember John Adams from my last class on the Electoral College quoted, "But the constitution of government, once changed from freedom, can never be restored. Liberty once lost is lost forever." They gave the power to the people, of the people, by the people, and for the people. They gave us the freedom. We are the only ones that give that freedom up. We're the only ones that can give that control up. It is up to us not to give the power to the government. Think before you vote. Earn what you desire. Strive for your goals. It is not always easy. If you work hard, your community will assist you. However, if you expect the government to give you things for free and to take care of you, then you will lose freedom and become a slave to the government. Do not be the generation that ends freedom and puts us all in bondage. I believe that all people are created equal. We must have in place protection for all people to have equal access to education and the other resources of this great nation. Although laws should be, and some are in place to ensure this equality, the primary leadership and enforcement should be at the local level. Now, perhaps the best way to sum this all up, what the founding fathers are trying to say as far as being afraid of pure democracy, is summed up by this person by the name of Alexander Fraser Tyler. Um, Now, some of the people give this credit to somebody else, as you can see below. But what he said, just think about this. I want you to study it and remember it because I think it's extremely important. A democracy is always temporary in nature. It simply cannot exist as a permanent form of government. A democracy will continue to exist until the time that voters discover that they can vote themselves generous gifts from their public treasury. From that moment on, the majority always votes for the candidate who promised the most benefits from the public treasury, with the result that every democracy will finally collapse due to loose fiscal policy, which is always followed by dictatorship. The average age of the world's greatest civilizations from the beginning of history has been about 200 years. During those 200 years, these nations always progress through the following sequence: from bondage to spiritual faith, from spiritual faith to great courage, from courage to liberty, from liberty to abundance, from abundance to selfishness, from selfishness to complacency, from complacency to apathy, from apathy to dependence, and from dependence back into bondage. Wow, I could not have said it better. And that's why talk about this spiritual faith. That's why I began with Genesis 1:1, of our way of thinking, because I believe that we need that understanding, that we need that basis to preserve liberty. And we preserve that by not being a democracy, but by being a republic, by being representation. The founding fathers were incredible in their insights. Thomas Jefferson, in a letter to Colonel Edward Carrington, stated, "The natural progress of things is for liberty to yield and for government to gain ground." And that's what they're trying to protect against, the protection of freedom and liberty from an overreaching government. If a politician says it's free, look for the tax. And now you know more of the story. Stay tuned. This is John McCamick with Truth University. Good day.